Hello, today I'd like to talk to you about the Canon EOS M50, the 15 to 45 f3.5 to 6.3 kit zoom, the 22mm f2.0, and the 50mm f1.8 STM lens. Can't see the camera because I'm recording it. So I'm currently recording this on a Canon EOS M50 with the 50mm f1.8 STM lens. I got this camera specifically because I was interested in doing video, and it's got a very cool feature called dual pixel autofocus. This allows the camera to keep track of my face and specifically keep my eye in very sharp focus as I move around, so I don't have to worry about whether I'm in focus, the background's in focus, I can move around, works out fine. The EOS M50 has gotten a lot of hate in the internet space, primarily because a lot of people are upset, I guess, over the fact that it's got limited capabilities in 4K video. But I'm shooting this in 1080p, and for 1080p, it's an awesome choice. Thanks to all the hate that it's gotten over the internet, it's caused the price of the EOS M50 to drop significantly. It's currently going for somewhere around $630, just the body alone, and about $700 with the lens. So what does this mean? This means that you can have an awesome camera for doing live video, for doing YouTube videos, for doing just about anything video related and remote control related for about $600 to $700. The kit lens that comes with it is the 15 to 45 f3.5 to 6.3 zoom. It's a slow lens. A lot of people don't like it because it's probably not that sharp. Actually, I find it to be a decent lens for what it is. It costs less than $100 when bought with the kit, and it allows you to zoom. Being an f3.5 6.3, on the 45 side, it's not going to be as sharp as the lens that I'm currently videoing this with, which is a 50mm f1.8 STM lens. Here's the kit zoom itself. It's good for events. So what is a zoom really good for? It's good for events. It's good for the times when you can't change lenses. It's good for times when you need to run around, change focal lengths, when you need a little bit of extra reach, when you need a little bit of extra width, and you just want to carry a lightweight solution. If you want the best video quality, you will of course go with a fixed focal length lens like this 50mm f1.8 STM. The 50mm is a low-cost solution. It's about $125. On average or so. Sometimes you can get it cheaper. F1.8 to use the EF 50mm f1.8 STM lens, you need to have an adapter to go from the EOS M mount to get to the EOS EF mount. The EF mount is the standard mount that's being used for Canon DSLRs. The adapter itself will cost anywhere from $60 to $200. If you buy the Canon adapter, it'll cost about $200. So right now I'm shooting with the 15 to 45 f3.5 to 6.3 kit zoom. It's a pretty decent lens. So as a result, for video, what you do is you can boost up the ISO and you can keep shooting at the same shutter speeds. I'm capturing this at 24 frames per second, just like the previous video. If you look at the background, you can see that there's a lot more in focus right now. So as we're at 6.3, right? So there'll be a lot more background in focus. My face is actually pretty sharp. It's not too bad right now. So it does a pretty decent job. I'm not really against this lens. It's a really good starting point. So I'm going to switch over now from the 45mm down to 15. So we're going to get a lot wider angle of view. We're also going to see the aperture, because it's a variable aperture, open up to f3.5 automatically, and we'll make an adjustment on the ISO to compensate for that. Hang on. So here we're at a 15mm focal length. As you can see, we get a lot more background. It's a lot brighter though, because we're now at f3.5. So I'm going to bring it down to an ISO of 400, and that takes the exposure compensation into effect. So at f3.5, it's got pretty decent exposure. So this is what things sound like. It still keeps, the dual pixel autofocus still keeps track of me. You can see a lot more. And I'm under a tent, so you're seeing a pole over here in the middle of this. So with that, we're going to have a look at the 22mm and see what that looks like. So this is the 22mm f2.0 fixed focal length lens on the EOS M50. We get a lot more background here than in the 50mm f 1.8 STM, as you can see. It's a nice wide-angle lens. f2.0 gives you a lot of flexibility in the aperture. We're currently shooting at ISO 125. Previously, with the zoom, we were shooting around between ISO 800 to ISO 400. So this gives us a lot more flexibility because we're dealing with a lot more light. This is what the zoom itself looks like. If you look at the way it operates, it's a very small lens, but it's got this little button here, and to zoom, you actually twist and slide it out, and this is about as long as it looks like when it's in use. It's not a bad-looking lens. It's kind of nice. It actually has a good feel to it. It's got a focus ring in the front, zoom ring in the back. The interesting thing about this lens is you can tell it's a relatively inexpensive lens because if you look at the if you look at the mount, it's got a plastic mount. So this is a 50mm f1.8 STM lens. It's got a metal mount in the back, as you can see. Nice wide aperture. Great looking lens. It's got a small focus ring on the front for manual focus. You can mount the lens to the adapter and mount the adapter to the camera. All of these mounts are metal mounts, so that's good. That's very strong. The adapter itself, interestingly enough, has a tripod mount, so you can mount the adapter to the tripod itself. And so if you have any heavy lenses or anything like that, the adapter will take the weight of the lenses and not stress out the EOS M50 mount itself. So if we look at the 22mm mount lens itself, it's got a metal mount at the back, so it's a pretty good mount. The front element is pretty small. The back element is actually larger than the front. It's interestingly odd that way. It's a great little lens. This is the lens fully extended. It's almost a pancake, so it takes up minimal space in your bag. Attach this lens to your camera, it's very discreet. So that's another huge advantage of that lens. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about how I'm shooting this right now. So what I did is I attached a 50mm f1.8 STM lens to it, and I pushed the tripod back a little bit more. So now we have a little bit more background in focus. We have a little bit more background that you can see, and this gives you a much, it's not quite as tight of a crop. So you can actually get a pretty decent images depending upon where you physically put the camera. So the camera to subject distance matters a great deal. So you can actually get a lot of flexibility just by camera to subject distance, and a lot of times I'm basically going to be shooting on a tripod anyway. So that's it. We're going to add some still images so that you can see what the lenses look like with the various still images. Elephant in the room, which is how well the camera does with 4K. 4K takes, as far as I'm concerned, for my purposes, 4K takes gigantic file sizes, which I don't want to deal with right now. Right now, just making these videos alone, we've got hundreds of megabytes, if not gigabytes, of files that are being generated just from shooting at 1080p 24 frames per second. The result is that with 4K, I would have much more larger files, and that means I'd have to process a lot more. That means I needed a better computer. It's just something else. Yes, noise dropped down a little bit. So the other question comes up is Wi-Fi versus shooting with a cable. I'm using a USB cable right now, which is transferring data to my laptop at 480 megabits per second. The Wi-Fi is significantly slower than that, so your actual workflow would be much slower if you were to use Wi-Fi alone. Okay, that's it.